The reason I'm standing up here today is because I'm a member of the Wisconsin Servant Leadership Group. So this is a group of volunteers that really our mission is to create more servant leaders in Wisconsin, in industry, in education, in our families. We believe in servant leadership, and we volunteer under the leadership of Dick Pieper and Tom Thibodeau, our wonderful leaders in this initiative. Some of you, this is an event, the city tour event is an event that we run something in fall and spring every year. We bounce around to different institutions. We're here, we're at Wisconsin Lutheran, we're at Alverno. And every spring and every fall for this Milwaukee City Tours event, what we do is we invite 3 speakers to come and share a piece of their servant leadership journey with you. We always have a theme, and today's theme is stewardship. So the 3 stories that you hear today will have this common thread of stewardship mixed in with them. And everybody's gonna probably take that frame and that lens a little bit differently. What does it mean to be a good steward as a servant leader? What are we stewards of? That type of thing. I'm really excited to hear their stories. Then we're gonna have some time for a panel, so that will give all of you an opportunity to ask our panelists, our speakers, questions. So Sandy Singer is here. I met Sandy about 3 months ago, was it? Something like that, yeah. So Jean Wright introduced us. Is Jean in the room? Oh, I just called him out. I'm sorry, Gene. He will be here. I know he will be here. But Sandy started her professional journey with an event when she was in, was it high school? When you came here for the summer program?
It was for my high school.
Oh, it's for high school. So in high school, she was invited to MSOE for a summer program where she learned about civil engineering, and she is going to share the rest of her story. So Sandy?
Thank you, Deanna. Thank you for the privilege to be here in front of this august group today. Indeed, many years ago, in 1977, I was plucked out of high school by Milwaukee School of Engineering, and I would say that was the beginning of my servant leadership pathway, just right there at that moment. And last summer, I returned to MSOE after having become a living tree of their stewardship, which they planted in me. And I returned to offer some fruit to give back after all those years of being in my career of civil engineering. I had many experiences, and what I want to share regarding stewardship today is that I can look back on my career and see that I was able to be a steward of the golden rule, because my career had a very large international facet to it. I've been on all 7 continents and over 70 countries, and I had so many opportunities to work really collaboratively, different cultures and different people in different contexts, and even to represent being the steward of America as a servant of, I think, the greatest principle, to be the greatest of all, you be the servant of all, and humble yourself. And you even flow like the principle of water, which always goes to the lowest place where it's needed the most. And so I was in difficult situations, difficult circumstances, difficult projects, especially in terms of relationships and maybe not being on the same page and not being on common ground, as this is so prevalent today, much more than it was in my career 25 years ago. I felt, even now looking back, that it's sort of, being a forerunner and for these kinds of things. So looking back, I want to share with you a story that's a true story. I was working at the time in Moscow, and I was the head of a project management office there. And this was right after the breakup of the Soviet Union. And during the Cold War times, Central Asia became a focal point for the building of facilities and infrastructure that was really dedicated towards harming humanity. And after the breakup of the Soviet Union, and some of these countries became independent nations again, they did not want this infrastructure and this legacy and this kind of thing to remain, in their country. They didn't want their scientists and engineers purposed towards destructive things. And so they reached out, many of them did reach out to the United States government for financial aid and for technical aid in repurposing scientific and engineering facilities from places, I'm only speaking the truth here, that were dedicated to weapons of mass destruction and repurposing them to collaborative enterprises. And they now have a desire where they wanted to contribute collaboratively in terms of science and engineering with their champions of their people. And they want to partner with the West and to break that spiral of that was mistrust and the enemy and all of the things that don't bring anyone forward. And so I was chosen to be the project manager for responding to one of these places that had been like a secret city. And this particular place, their focus was on biological weapons of mass destruction. And so they would design and create pathogens that would harm humanity and that would be released into the environment, and for which there was no antidote there, so, but they did not want this to continue on in the country, and so the United States government said, yes, we'll support this project, we'll send a project team, we'll send you money to transition to being collaborative, to collaborating with us, not against us. And so I had the privilege of being the project manager, and I was so sent to a remote place in Central Asia. And I came with a team of experts in this area, and there was about a dozen of us, and we were received by about a dozen of the Institute's scientists and by the director, and we were all, so this was the project kickoff meeting, right, and but we have persons that spoke Russian, and then we spoke English, so there were State Department translators. It was a translated, facilitated meeting. And the director of the Institute began the meeting and welcomed everyone. But what I should say first is that there was a very large table, and he sat at the head of it at one end. But when I came in and my team came in, we just sat wherever we sat. I didn't consciously think, oh, I'm the head. I need to sit at the head of the table. And it never even occurred to me. I actually just sat somewhere in the middle. And my team filled in. And another gentleman, another engineer on the team, actually happened to sit directly across from the director. Now, you have to think, this is a different culture. It's a different time. It was 25 years ago. The mindset, and there was really the old model of authoritative leadership. And so the director of the Institute began directing this conversation and to the person sitting opposite him in the chair, which was another man. And when it was his turn to speak, he said, I'm not the project manager, I'll let, he pointed to me and looked at me, and my team looked at me, and I'll let, this is the project manager here. I was the only woman in the room, and, honestly, it was like a moment where I felt there was a shockwave that entered the room, and that they were shocked, actually, that a woman would be ahead of the America would send a woman to be ahead of the project, and I felt difficulty I felt. I read the body language and the expression on people's faces was, how could a woman be worthy to lead this project? This is such complex information and such a, I didn't feel welcome, in other words. It suddenly felt like ice cold, right? How you can feel that in your body. You even get a cold chill, right? So I felt that. Nevertheless, I'm the project manager at the time, and I was the one to speak, but of course it was a team on our end. And this is where I had to really apply the golden rule, but you're not thinking of it in the moment, because as a true servant leader, it's built into you, it's inherent, it's something natural. And I had to really decide, well, this is an opportunity not to do unto others what, not to continue the same element of mistrust or distrust, or even starting out that way, but to change the equation immediately by, in my mind, maintaining it's not about me, and don't take it personally. That's not the proper framework. To respond, that's not a response. Responding is the alternative, the proper response. And so, I let that moment pass, and I just decided to build trust, to be honest, to be open, to not have any secrets. All the things that were the antithesis of what this Cold War represents, right? Secrecy and deception and subterfuge, and I'm going to use this to get something for myself. I'm going to do what it takes to get ahead and really right and all of those things. But I just continued with the project and its unfolding as if none of that mattered. Almost really as if it isn't even real, it doesn't even exist. And by not actually trying to prove anything, I really didn't outwardly say, well, I'm going to prove them wrong. I'm going to prove that I am worthy and all win. I didn't have an epic cause in my mindset. To my own mind, it wasn't that. I just decided to be natural and be myself, but exhibit the qualities that I would want to be returned unto me. Even if they're not or weren't, I'm still going to give that out and prove the law, that the law does work, and that maybe over time there will be a return that is commensurate with doing unto others what you want them to do unto you. And sure enough, 2 years later, the project was completed successfully. The institute had been repurposed to collaborative entity with the West. And on the day that we met in the same room where we started out, the institute director indeed had become a friend. And he was so appreciative of this institute being turned around that he gave me as a gift, a parting gift, this is the compass from a Russian submarine. Wow. And I was worried when he said he had a gift because as a federal officer, we're not allowed to take gifts. And so, but I decided I could accept this gift as a token of, he said, good leadership, good direction, and as something negative had been turned into something positive. And I think that's the fruit of the golden rule, and the compass is our heart that leads us to those places where our one drop makes a difference. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sandy. That was beautiful. So our next speaker today is someone that anybody from MSOE knows very well, Dr. David Howell. He is an exemplar servant leader in everything that he does, and he's taught me a lot about servant leadership. So it is truly my honor to introduce David Howell.
Hey, you got slides. Thanks for being here. I'm going to talk about self-care to stewardship. This is the MSLE mindset. MSLE wants all of our graduates to have these 4 qualities, and they're right in the middle of the box, right? Leaders of character, responsible professionals, passionate leaders, value creators. And there's a number of communities and parameters that feed that central goal. And servant leadership is a big chunk of that. On the very bottom of the servant leadership portion, where you can see the tenets of servant leadership, we have stewardship. And I had the opportunity to serve as chair for servant leadership, I went the wrong way, from 2009 to 2015. And this was my yes man phase, okay? So I was accepted to be on this role. We had this delicious endowment from the Pieper Family Foundation. And I'm like, a philosophy professor. So I'm lucky if I can just, buy food at the grocery for my kids at the end of the day. And all of a sudden, I'm responsible for this endowment. And I thought, wow, we could have some fun. We could have a lot of fun doing some pretty crazy stuff for servant leadership, okay? But I didn't know what I was doing, right? I took the job because it was chair for servant leadership, right? I wanted to get chair. Does that make sense? I just picked 2011 out of all these reports. Every year we wrote a different report for the endowment. We did a lot of stuff in 2011. We sent students to Kenya to work on computer labs, feeding the inner city, doing projects for something, working with the Brady Corporation, giving presentations. I was so much thinner then, doing work in the inner city. We built the Leaning Tower of Pisa out of Legos. Students going to China and receiving gifts for literacy, creating meals for people who are staying at the Ronald McDonald House. And I got to meet all of these students, right? And I learned very quickly that we enable the students to have service opportunities and then to learn, to let them reflect on and ruminate on what you learned from service and then repurpose that in leadership roles. Oh yeah, we did some more stuff. Some more stuff, right? And more stuff. And it just kept going and going and going. Anyway, I did this for 6 years. And I reached a point of compassion fatigue. I didn't know what compassion fatigue was at the time. The physical, emotional, and psychological impact of helping others, often through experiences of stress or trauma. And boy, that was a great time of my life, but I had no self-regulation, right? It was like, how can we do more? Because we had so much opportunity to do stuff. And so many students who are just willing, right? I remember I asked Deanna, would you want to go to Kenya with some students? And she kind of hemmed and hawed for a little bit. And then Deanna goes to Kenya, and she's transformed. She comes back a different person. And all of these students, right? And all of this transformation, because people are doing stuff. But I wasn't taking care of myself in the process. Through a series of events that were beyond my control, I stepped down as chair for servant leadership. I became dean of students, and that completely wiped me out, because if there's one job on this campus I'm not designed for, it's being dean of students, because I'm a hardcore introvert. So I told my wife, I need to go on a bike ride. So she's like, yeah, get out of here. So I shipped my bike to Seattle, and I biked back to Milwaukee. I was born in Seattle, it's where my family lives, and I live here in Milwaukee. So I rode my bike and I wrote, because these are the two things that feed me the most. Well, my wife, if I didn't say my wife, I get in trouble, so, because this is recorded. So writing and writing, yeah? And it was a bit of a thought experiment. What would I think about if I rode my bike for 9 hours a day for 32 days in a row? So about 6 or 7 days into it, I realized I need some rules. I need some self-imposed rules or ethics. So here's a couple of the rules that I established for myself that I've been practicing since this was like 2015. So solitude prepares me to be with others, and being with others prepares me for solitude. Because I love solitude. I could sit in my office for the next 4 hours and stare out the window, and that's my happy place. but it's great because it's completely cost effective. But that's what feeds me, right? Then I go and I teach a group of students, and that takes 15 minutes, and then I go sit in my office for another couple of hours and try to recover from all that human interaction. So I've learned this about myself. Also, my wife, Sue, she comes first, and then the kids, right? If we're going to be good parents, we better take care of each other. And then my students, right? You guys in back, right? Joey, and then everyone else, right? So I'm sorry, but you're everyone else, right? Because if I'm going to be my A game, I got to make sure I'm taking care of my students and my kids and my wife. And that's how I take care of myself. But I got to make that priority. Yum, yum, yum? Yeah. And then the platinum rule. So yeah, the golden rule, right? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, right? But I put a spin on it, right? Do unto others as a way of doing unto oneself. So I want to take care of the people in my community. I want to be a resource, but I don't want to burn out, right? I don't want to go through another one of those experiences where it takes me years to recover. And I think this is a common experience in our hyper-stimulated culture. So I wrote a book while I was riding across the country, and this is the gift I wanted to offer you. I love writing so much. And it was such a gift to go on this trip. And I keep trying to have bike rides, and every summer I go, but people keep wanting to come with me. It's kind of a funny thing, because they want to have that experience with me, and I just want to be left alone. But once again, it's this balance, right? Spending time alone and preparing myself to spend time with others so I can be a resource for the people in my community. Thank you very much.
I adore that event. It's hard not to. So we have one more amazing speaker to present today, Rebecca Conway, and I met, maybe a year or so ago through Tempo.
Probably 3 years, but
It's
it's a time warp.
Oh my gosh, that's embarrassing. That's crazy. It's been 3 beautiful years where I've had the pleasure of attending many Tempo events with Rebecca and hear her stories. And from the minute I met her, I knew she was a servant leader, and it was a no-brainer of who to invite to speak today. So everybody, let's have fun.
Oh, great. So first of all, thank you for inviting me, Deanna, to come speak here. I'm really, really honored to be here. So my role, I work at a company called Clarios, and I just want to share a little bit of my journey and how I lead my team with a servant's heart. So first, I put this up here. My job is I'm a sales and marketing leader. We're the world's largest company that makes car batteries. You may think, I do not look like the person who would normally have this job. You can probably imagine what that person looks like. I'm female, I'm a mom, I'm way younger, and I definitely lead with a servant's heart and lead with my heart and empathy and a lot of emotion. And so I can tell you, as I've been in my career, I've been with the company almost 14 years, I am not the norm, and this has been kind of my journey to realize I'm okay who I am, and I don't need to conform to what the norm is. So, how did I get here? My slide looks like it shifted down, so that says, how did I get here? So my roots. I grew up in Waukesha, local. I went to Madison. I'm not an engineer, I'm a marketing person. But I'd say the one thing for me is hard work was instilled in me from day one. My dad's an electrician. We worked 7 days a week, 12 hours a day at Harley-Davidson. So we had an awesome life growing up. That's all I knew was hard work. My mom stayed home, she cut the grass, she did plumbing, you name it, she did it. So that's all I did growing up, was hard work was number one. My dad told me 3 things every day when I went to school. He's like, work hard, be good, and don't talk too much in class. I did 2 of the 3. Opposite of Dave, I'm an extreme extrovert. I could be friends with a wall. I need to be around people. So, my values. And this is really kind of what I've grown myself to. Be honest, I don't have a poker face. This has actually gotten me in trouble in meetings where people will say something and I kind of have to look on my face. So that's the coaching I've received, is kind of keep it in. Be humble. Again, nothing is beneath me. I lead a pretty large team, and my team, there's times where I step up and I do things that are definitely not in my job description, but again, it was instilled for me from a young age to be humble and do whatever it takes. Be generous. Faith is a really important part of my life. I've always been a very spiritual person, and giving back and recognizing the privilege, the resources I have, and being generous. And so this is the little things with my team of everybody's birthday, I make sure I get them a card, I buy them lunch, I plan the baby showers at work. And all those little things really make the world a difference. And to me, I don't really know how you aren't generous, especially when I recognize the privilege that I have. Be curious. These are things I always tell people when I'm hiring. I can't teach two things. I can teach you about car batteries, I can teach you about marketing, I can teach you about anything. I can't teach you to be curious, which is a natural desire to learn and learn everything and just be curious, and I can't teach hard work. And then most importantly, be yourself. Again, I am not the typical person in my job. Most meetings, I'm the only woman in the room. It's me and 10 men. Most of them are 50-year-old white dudes. That's what my industry is. And so it has been a journey for me to say, I am who I am, and I'm not changing, and I'm not going to conform. And a lot of the leadership style, I take that. My career path, so how did I get here? I lead, I'm part of a $5 billion part of our business. I lead marketing and sales. How did I get here? I said yes to pretty much every opportunity that came. I said yes to jobs I honestly didn't know I could do, but I said, you know what? I'll figure it out, I'll work hard. I've always been very open and honest about what I want to do in my career, and very, very focused and intentional in my conversations. So anytime I'm meeting with somebody in a leadership role, whether they're my boss, my boss's boss, the head of HR, you name it, I'm very intentional in saying, this is where I want to be, and putting a little onus on them. How are you going to help me get there? And then lastly, where am I today? So I lead a team of 17 people. I am a mentor to many women and men actually in the organization and in the Milwaukee community and in my automotive industry in general. And most importantly, I'm an advocate for my team. That is one of the most critical things I see. So I'd like to share an aha moment in my servant leadership journey. December 11th, 2017. So this was the hardest day of my professional career. Most people probably, I don't know, most people have a day that they remember, but this was my day. I was running our largest accounts in the company, and my customer came into our office, their CEO came into our office, it was Monday, 8 a.m., and I thought, okay, it was kind of weird, but whatever. They have a private jet, they can show up whenever they want. I fly commercial, economy, and so they show up to the office and they say, okay, Rebecca, we're here to tell you that we have decided to give our business to a different supplier. And it was actually one of our other customers. Imagine this is kind of complicated. So at that time, I was leading a team of 17 people. I'd been in my job a little over a year, and I kept my composure in the meeting. My customer left, and my boss's boss immediately said to me, it's okay, Rebecca, you'll be fine, you'll have a job. I cried, and you can imagine I saw car batteries. Tears aren't very normal there. And I said, it's not about me, it's the team of 17 people I'm responsible for. I'm responsible for the paychecks, and I'm responsible for the kids to go to college. This is my role as a leader. My job leading this team is to make those 17 people that are under my guidance, ownership. That is my job. It's not about me. And that was, my bosses kind of looked at me like, yeah, but you're good. I'm like, again, it's not about me. I don't care where I end up. I'll find some place, I'll end up on my feet. But it really was about those 17 people. And that was my aha moment where I realized I had taken an approach to leadership not at all about myself, but really about my people. So how do I lead? That's what's up there. So first, my team model. We have two team models. One is get stuff done, and the other is it's only car batteries. It really is important to keep a perspective. It's not that important what we do. It's not brain surgery. There's people who have far more important things to do. And I really want to make sure people keep that in mind so they don't get too stressed, right? My goal as a leader is to keep the team motivated, not stressed, and make sure that they keep the necessary perspective. Be authentic. Be who you are. I'm unapologetically me. Some people like that, some people don't, but that's the way I go through life. Be open and honest in my communication. I work at a pretty large company. We're about a $10 billion company. And you can imagine there's a lot of decisions that are made by leaders that sometimes I agree with, sometimes I don't. And I'm pretty open with my team in those communications when I have to deliver a message. Because really, the only way I can build trust with my team is being open and honest in that communication. Listen, my meetings are back to back to back many days. And sometimes I look at my calendar and I think this is ridiculous. But when someone on my team says, and I have 7 direct reports, a team of 17, they say, hey Rebecca, I need to talk to you. I say, absolutely, give me a call. And I tell that person who ran the meeting, I will be 5 minutes late because I need to talk to the person on my team. It doesn't matter if I'm in an airport, where it is, if it's on a weekend, I take their phone call. It does not matter. That is my #1 priority. Self-awareness. I know what I don't know. Okay, marketing is my background, and sometimes it's very technical things. I've got fantastic people on my team. I'm the first to say, I don't know, but you know who does know? Troy. Troy's amazing. Troy actually graduated from MSOE. He's on my team. He's awesome. And so that is, as a leader, sometimes with leaders, you can tell they're just making it up, or they're not humble enough to say, I don't know. And I'm the first to recognize what I don't know and really rely on experts on my team. So this is one thing I'm really big on, is creating what we call like a psychological safe space of sharing. So making an environment where my team and the organization around you feel safe to speak up. This comes really important from an ethics perspective too, right? In order to make sure we're having ethical business practices and people aren't doing anything to cut corners with things that are unethical, you need to have a space where people feel safe to speak up. And that comes with the open and honest communication. It's being transparent, it's being authentic and genuine, it's creating this psychological safe space. Empathy. I know my team. I know their spouses' names, I know their kids, I know their dogs, I know where they live. I know everything about them, and I think that is a really important thing, is to know what they're going through. Last year was the hardest year for my team. I had one woman go through breast cancer, many surgeries for that. I had another woman on my team, lost her husband. He had a 1-year battle with a brain tumor. I had another one lose a parent. And so if I take a look at all my team went through, it was knowing what they were going through, meet them where they are, and a lot, right, as they go back to being humble. Taking on work and doing things that wasn't my job, but for us, again, it's only selling carburetors. Your family is #1, your spouse is #1, your kids, your community. That's really what's important. And then lastly, being an advocate for my team. So I'm in the room, I have a lot of guidance, and I'm able to speak up where they want to go on their career path. Another one, I learned from having a bad boss, quite honestly, is making sure they get the opportunities to present, right? I get the privilege of speaking at a lot of events, doing a lot of things, and I step back and say, I don't want to do that. Hey, Matt, you're going to go do this. Craig, you're going to go do this. Michelle, you're going to do this. And they say, hey, Rebecca, you're going to be there. Do you want to get up and speak too? No, they're going to get up there, right? How do I advocate for my team? How do I get their exposure, and making sure that I know in the organization what their career goals are and how I can best support them. So that is all I have. I just want to thank you again for the time today.
So who has a question? I'll come around with the mic to make sure that we record it and everybody hears it.
My question for you 3 is about mindfulness and habit stacking, so you can focus on yourself first. And when you do that, when I look at it, you have an event and you have a response and you have an outcome. And how do you habit stack and try to win every day?
My habit is to surrender. Surrender on it. Because if I take anything too seriously, that's a block. That can be an obstacle. Then you have an expectation that the outcome has to be a certain way, and that shuts off the flow of creativity, which we want to be open-minded. We want to be open in everything that we do, because we don't know at any point in time when that lightning bolt will come or where it will come from. And if we have definite and hard expectations, I mean, you should have a program, of course, but surrendering to, I say, come what may, and may it be your. Thank you.
Sure. But I'm a big fan of habituated behavior. So in my ethics class, we'll talk about what are all the reasons why people do bad things. And one thing I make sure we talk about is habituated behavior. I think a lot of people do bad things because they're not even aware that they're doing bad things. The person who's driving like crazy down I-43 and tries to cut me off, it's not about me, right? It's just how they drive their car. But you can put a positive spin on habituated behavior as well. So every morning I have coffee with my wife for half an hour, we talk, we walk the dog together, I ride my bike to work because that's good for my brain and good for my body. And then I have the opportunity to engage in students on a very structured basis. So, to echo the thesis of my presentation, right? A lot of downtime. So that when I'm on. But I have to make this habituated so that every day I can feed myself and feed those around me.
Yeah, I would say is I have some just ground rules. I have kids that are 8 and 12. They're in 18,000 sports. I travel quite a bit for my job. So I have a lot on my plate. I think probably when it comes to the servant side of things, right? I don't really do that much for myself. People say, what are your hobbies? Honestly, I don't really have any. But for me, non-negotiables, I get done with work, we eat dinner as a family, we spend that time together. That's a non-negotiable. If I have to work at night, when my kids are in bed, that's fine. But to me, that is the absolute sacred time. I know they're not gonna be in my house forever. That is something I absolutely have to do. Do I prioritize myself as much as I should? Probably not. But to me, you know, being the best wife and mom is the priority, and I probably put myself a little bit lower than I should. So, probably not the right answer. Probably should do a little bit more for myself, but take a good walk. A walk is my best thing. Anytime I get in my head, I get, ooh, it's just too much, walk outside. Even cold, dreary Wisconsin weather, a good, even 15-minute walk outside, clears it all, I feel better, get my emotions back in check, ready to get back in.
What are some of the things that you're doing in your roles with your companies to infuse some servant leadership behavior and explaining that to your leadership team?
So before my tenure at MSOE, I was in the high-tech sector for 8 years, and that was all bottom line. And I was not a good fit for that. I don't understand bottom line. And I now work for this beautiful nonprofit organization where there's no direct connection between the bottom line and my performance. Maybe I shouldn't say that out loud. Dr. Moses. But you know, I felt so much stress and weight over my deliverables. And now my deliverables are students. So I had to make a very conscious choice to leave my high-paying job in a brand new house on the golf course to come to MSOE, where I was making, I started out making a third of what I was making in the for-profit. But you know, this was at the bidding of my spouse, who said, I love you, but I don't really like you anymore. So I kind of had to have a metamorphosis. And that meant a huge career shift because I'm very defined by career. So yeah, nonprofit.
I can relate to the pressure of the bottom line and project deliverables, and also that it's at the expense of one's personal psyche, one's emotions, one's feelings. My life personally also became very imbalanced. As an international project manager, there was never a time the project was offline. It was, you know, different time zones all the time, 7 days a week. There was no going on vacation, taking the come. So I kind of had to come about it from the School of Hard Knocks to come to the same, you know, ultimate conclusion they did, and recognize I saw it as people are the project. The project is about the people. The mission of the project is that people come along and develop together, and at the end we have something that we say, we did it together. It can never be so, become so stressful on one person, then we're not all in it together. And so I came to the point of leading by maintaining more of a focus, a balanced focus. Like you said, the tangible is outside that specific scope of a car battery or whatever the product is. The real focus is us as human beings and coming away with the happiness of having completed something together. So I think what Rebecca said is that Dave also said really answered the question better than I did about the focus on the well-beingness. And the project is just a stage in which to picture that. Thank you.
I work for a for-profit company that's owned by private equity. I have a lot of financial pressures. We have a number of hits, you can imagine. I would say, I think for me, I think about it as if I have engaged and happy and passionate people, they will do a better job taking care of our customers, and that will then flow to our bottom line. And that's really where I take it. And I will tell you that we've had different leaders in my company, and we've had some pretty authoritative to people and things like that. It doesn't work well for the people, right? And I can tell you, every person on my team says, you're the best boss I've ever had. I'm not that special. All I do is I listen to them, I support them, and I make sure that they're happy. And because they're happy and they're engaged, then our customers are happier with us. And that's really what I think is the crux of it. It starts with the employees, and then the customers are more happy, and then the bottom line will just fall where it may. And again, you can't internalize it. I mean, my career means the world to me. There's been plenty of times I have to step back and say, I did my best, but this was not meant to be. I'm separating. I can't get emotionally invested in it.
Thank you. What advice would you give a younger version of yourself?
I would look myself and just say, I know this, you're an introvert. This is what it means to take care of yourself, right? Because, 13 years of school and 2 terminal degrees and the high-tech stuff and various roles at MSLE, it's been a lot of go. And I wish I had known earlier it's okay to dial it back and just appreciate what's going on. I actually maybe barely remember when my kids were 9 and 12, because I was doing Ironman triathlons and doing servant leadership stuff and dragging them around all over the place. I wish I had a greater sense of perspective and appreciation for everything that was with its arm's reach.
Thank you for that answer, David. I could say the same thing in that a younger version of myself, I would say slow down. Why in such a hurry to, have these things going on at once, and we do have extra energy when we're younger, and I think, and naturally as we get older, it kind of naturally slow down, but why couldn't it started out into slowing down? Nothing done, nothing left undone. There's really a balance principle to apply, and the sooner you can get that and apply it and start, I think the whole planet will be.
I would say my number one thing would be setting boundaries, and that comes from both the professional and personal perspective. How to set boundaries to take care of myself in the professional that I'm not taking on too much, and how do I set boundaries in my personal life to make sure that the only people I'm having in my life are those that are working with me and against me. I actually read a book recently called The Book of Boundaries, and it gives you scripts of certain things, and I look back and man, I really wish I could have had the guts to say some of those things and set those boundaries. And you sometimes let people take a little advantage of you, or do you put up with more crap than you should? I really wish I would have known that when I was younger.
So did you ever, kind of on this journey, question your lifestyle and choices around servant leadership during this time? Just because of the need to step away from it and kind of take care of yourself again? And if so, how did you kind of get through that and bring yourself back to the servant leadership lifestyle?
Yeah, so I like to talk to my students about balance and protecting yourself so you don't implode. And I joke about how if you don't learn how to do this, then your body will solve the problem for you,
Yes.
and you'll have a breakdown. And breakdown is not a bad thing. It's just your body saying, okay, you've been going way too hard, way too long. We're gonna reset now.
Yeah.
And I probably had 2.5 breakdowns, right? So, and this book is kind of a response to that. I don't write about that specifically, but I was on this long bike ride. I didn't really understand why. It wasn't premeditated. I just kind of knew in the back of my brain, I need to get away, and I need to figure some stuff out, and I need to change my moral compass. So, yeah, I hope I have learned the lesson, right? I hope I have learned the lesson. So, but usually the pattern has been point of crisis, and then giving myself just enough time to receive some clarity, and then acting on that new information. Did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So our takeaway, what biggest takeaway I'm going to share is put the oxygen mask on yourself first.
Being a good stewardship of your company's, your organization's mission, vision, and values with your clients as well as your fellow coworkers. Number two, be good to your coworkers, and especially those who may be in a very difficult or vulnerable position. One of the examples was in times we have a couple of police officers here, even as you may need to arrest someone to maintain the dignity, help them through this very difficult time. 3 retired and re-entry professionals within our group, and their whole vision of servant leadership and being a good steward of that was giving back with their expertise and their experience to help others, perhaps younger, newer in the industry, grow professionally. And they all said they got more out of that than they did really within their first career.
We decided stewards and servant leaders needed to know the personalities and the talents of their staff. And that when you know those things, you can create staff happiness, or that it's doing the little things to improve the big things.
We really came across the table with, some people think that servant leadership is squishy or touchy-feely, and it really isn't a formal leadership. But ultimately, it's about our people, how our people perform, and we're stewards of those people and our communities and the sphere that we hold close to us.
Speak to that. Speak as if your grandchildren are in the room and you're communicating with people. And I'm just going to leave it at that. So we want to make sure that when we're talking to people, we're talking to them with respect. We're talking with them in a caring way, so that they can walk away with the true meaning of that conversation instead of feeling a certain point, right? So just make sure that you're speaking to people, so either your granny is in the room or your grandchildren are.
Be careful stewards of our minds, of our outlooks, of our perspectives. It's very easy for us to get down on ourselves for faults or failures, perceived failures, but instead we focus on those who just kind of exist, not doing very well. But we instead still try to keep focusing on the positive direction of mindset, then things typically work out better. That your experience again. All right.
Good stewards are stewards of relationships with ourselves and others, stewards of awareness of our own gifts and fulfilling our highest purposes, and then stewarding acceptance of one's own gifts or our value.
The intent here is to go over Wisconsin and then go over the world and what's going on. We have 9 cities and organizations that are all planting seeds. You might say we're in the business of planting folk seeds. Trees grow, slow, they're powerful, they withstand all of the winds, pestilence, and they're standing on mountaintops all by themselves. That doesn't mean you should seek standing on a mountaintop all by yourself. That's the way it is for the most part. There are 10 active monthly roundtables around Wisconsin. There's a present servant leadership and local service and faculty meetings to many of our institutions. There are 200 plus YouTubes waiting for you to look at and share in a group. Wisconsin is newly refreshed website for increased social media presence. And I will tell you that the Instagram is not being used at all. We've got a challenge right there. We got some old folks, and we need some young folks. It'll spread the news over there back then. It will get there. but we need all your help. If you use Instagram, go grab Wisconsin Servant Leadership. We have, and that red is Wisconsin Institutional Platform. What do we do after I'm not around, and that's not going to take for years, and Tom's not around, he's got probably 15 years to go. Maybe he'll get 20, but we got to replace ourselves. And so this is kind of a quantum organization. Almost nobody completely understands the whole thing. And there's a little Newtonian in there as well, because it makes some people comfortable. But it's made up of a platform. There's 3 institutions that are associated with the leadership. Each one takes 2 years. President Dr. Waltz is the lead for the next 2 years, and then there will be somebody else from Circle and somebody else from the University of Wisconsin, Mass. They've all signed up. They're all tracking. Internally, there's an organization called, we just named it, we haven't approved this yet, but it's called the Hub. And there it's all about the roundtables. There's 10 roundtables right now that are functioning. Some of them are terrific, some of them are good. They all are quite different. They're all available to all of you. Some of them are online, so there's no excuse that anybody can't have it from any place. And so that hub is driving a lot of learning to this all small group. Exactly how we just did these roundtables, that's how the roundtables work with proven facilitators. We have about 4 areas in the state that want to be, but we have to have 6 people is the guideline, and we need somebody who is a proven facilitator. So we have lots of positions available to be an assistant, a backup. And there you get some experience. It's probably the soundest way to go. But that's a big part of what you're doing. Then we have 2 areas, La Crosse and Milwaukee. Twice a year we have a citywide meeting, or we just are having here today. And then once a year we have a state conference headed by Viterbo. And they've been doing it for years. Powerful, it's 2 days. Highly recommend it. Those are the things going on in the field. Wisconsin Servant Leadership Platform, they call it. And it's run with all volunteers. There will be some paid people part-time with the roundtables, because the roundtable, to nurture it, start another one up, keep track of it, is kind of time consuming. I'm doing that right now myself, but not on a level that it could be done. So that's what we have evolving right now. And the accountability is through the feedback we get from all these different platforms. We're going to post any reaction after this, tell us what to do. We'll look at that, read it, and we'll incorporate it. And that's continuous, everything we do. Once a year, that is looked at by the steering committee. It's really called the institutional platform. And we look at it, and people in charge of those areas, the communication area, that's the only thing. Everything else has the right. There's a leader with every one of those areas that I spoke of, exception of health, which is some professional, lots of experience. That's that can be managed that yet to be determined. This all started maybe in December. It began in 2020. We had the International Summit. The purpose of it was to lift the world up in servant leadership, the Center for Servant Leadership, and to lift Wisconsin and re-energize it. You in Wisconsin are a very unique element in the world to riding this model. Not to be duplicated, but to be learned. Right. Here are the various areas. You have that in handouts. I'm not going to go through every one of them. They're all unique. I could spend the rest of my life just going through these, right? You saw us. You leave and you're in like, you're lifted. Now, here is some really interesting. The red letters are what is happening today. The orange, which is always called this is what we had in 2019. In 3 years, quickly got to that other number, and you'll see it's 3 and 4 times more. Now, this is anything that's written, spoken, it's on the internet. That's a huge leap forward. And I give great credit to the National Conference and what have been on there. And many, there's 107, I think it was 107 resources. So, no. 300% applied ethics. Almost 300%. Lead by serving. 300% servant leadership. 145 million hits. That's extraordinary. That's great hope for the world. And there are people everywhere grabbing onto this. Many people don't know about it, they've never heard of it. That's our job. If you get it in your heart and it gets connected to your head, you will not let go of it. And your spouse will be saying, they've already heard that story before. It is the way it works. The Greenleaf Center website, they have a weekly message that goes out. Anybody can sign up, free. There's a scholars program that is meeting here. It's really it's PhDers for the most part, and pre and post PhDers that present papers that they have been nominated annually, and it's injecting at the university level people who will be teaching and writing in the future. University of Missouri has 3 cohorts of EDD, I think that, yeah. EDD, it's like a PhD, but in education. And they have taken servant leadership and infused it into their program. They have, I think, 5 segments. One of them is pure servant leadership, and 2 others are totally inculcated with servant leadership, producing PhDs in education. And that's working, and it's done. It's locked in place. Education, higher education, picked this up faster than it did any other institutional platform we have in our society. Much, much faster. In Wisconsin, there are 3 endowed servant leader chairs. You heard about one of them today at MSOE. Here are papers that are written. They're on our website. Right now, they're also not up here. There's an endowed speaker series at Chautauqua with a lady that's going to kick it off that everybody says that's the person in the world for leadership. Whatever you do, whatever example you're providing, you in fact are planting those seeds. Everybody watches you. Children, friends, spouse, it all affects everything in your life. And it becomes natural. You just can't shut up. You just can't do. What are you doing telling this restaurant that they have a puddle of water in the floor? It's none of your business. Real story. What are you going up to this parent that's shouting at their child in the middle of the street? You're going to get yourself killed. Well, there's a way to do it, and keep moving. What are you doing taking this person who wants a meal into Howard Johnson at Times Square to give him a meal? What? I mean, he looks like he's just that, everything else. Well, he really didn't want a meal. He wanted some money to go do things that aren't good for him. But sat down in the restaurant, he ordered chicken, fried chicken, and he's looking around, where's the money? And I told Eddie, I'm going to pay the bill there. And then he says, I'm leaving. Well, why are you leaving? I don't like chicken. And it's gone. So that is the way it is. But who has the right in this country to not give somebody that wants a meal? Really neat experiences too, I'll tell you. How do you know if we are servant leaders? Only when people we lead, formal and informal, as in every organization, there's probably more formal leadership, informal, than there is formal. There are people you can go to, you can trust, they don't blab, they listen, maybe give you a touch of their own experience, but that's the person you go to. A lot of people. So formal and informal leads the way. The best test, those you've got the cards here that are out there. That's the best test. Is healthier, wiser, freer, more autonomous as a result of what they do, that they become servant leaders. That's the test. And that's an evolution. It's an evolution. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Tom. You have had a splendid day, just outstanding. These speakers were home runs and also unique and so different. All very real. It's spectacular. Mr. Tom.
He's 89 and still leaking steam.
All right.
He introduced me today to his granddaughter, Kat. How proud you must be of how your grandpa's kind of turning out. Thank you for your
I'm proud of that.
Well, he's very pleased to be here with his granddaughter. I'm very pleased to be with my cousin, Jerry.
Yeah, Jerry.
In May, Jerry invited me to his mother's celebration of life. His mom, my Aunt Janet, was my first babysitter. She was a marvelous woman, a second grade teacher. She works with his father in a business, Genduza Pharmacy, and together they were just extraordinary in their contributions. But it's only possible because of our grandmother. See, each of us is stewards of a legacy not our own. None of us got here by ourselves. Is that not true? All those people have gone before us. The next generation of women leaders stand on your shoulders because of your courage and your commitment, your integrity and skill. It's extraordinary. In 1937, our grandfather was hit by a trolley car here in downtown Milwaukee, leaving our grandmother with 5 children under the age of 11. She was a single-parent businesswoman in the midst of the Great Depression. Her shop was on 51st and Center. Her beauty shop was there on the first floor, and the second floor was her apartment. Our grandmother would get up in the morning, she'd make breakfast for the older 4, give them to the care of the 11-year-old, and then go downstairs and bring her baby downstairs, and she'd begin cutting hair. That baby was Jerry's mom. At 10 o'clock, my grandma would stop to nurse that child, and she had a friend who had given birth to twins who was not starting to nurse her own children, so the father brought the twins over. Grandma nursed 3 babies at 10, at noon, at 3, and 5, and then went upstairs and took care of her family. We are not here today without the sacrifice of that good woman. That's what stewardship is. It's a sacrifice. And what's really extraordinary in terms of each of you today, you made a sacrifice. Your family had to be scared about you right there in the midst of the Cold War, going to Moscow, working in a very difficult situation, and yet you were a peacemaker of the 21st century by building relationships with the people of Russia, building a level in terms of trust that creates institutions and opportunities for the rest of us. You are a steward of democracy. David, when he talked about his health and his well-being, each of us is a steward of our own health. And what's really extraordinary, I just want to point this out, the state of Wisconsin leads the nation in healthcare costs. Why? Because we lead the nation in 2 areas of behavior. 1, binge drinking, and 2, obesity. You can't fry cheese or you may be thin. Now what's really extraordinary about it is this. If we don't take care of our health, what do we say? What's happened to our healthcare costs? What's happened to the availability of healthcare? Well, if we don't take care of ourselves, we're putting a burden on other people. If we are not stewards of our own wellness, what are the costs to our families and to our community? How important and significant that was. And when he talked about it, and then Rebecca, for yourself, the future belongs to batteries. It really does. In terms of how many of us have battery-powered hand tools? We know this is the future in terms of cars and how important and sustainable it is, but stewardship is difficult. I'll tell you how difficult it is. Look at how much stuff we're throwing away today. We all came in today, we had a great lunch, and all of it gets thrown in the trash. Each of us has a metal cup out in our cars, but instead of bringing in a metal cup, we all kind of just would get one of these and we just toss it away. See, what's really interesting is that stewardship demands sacrifice. Demands sacrifice. It means delaying gratification. how important that is. Are we stewards of our natural environment? People came in today, oh, it's a terrible day. It's raining and snowing. I know, I drove down in it. Thank God it's raining and snowing. State of Wisconsin's in drought. And one of the things I just think remind all of us who sit here in Milwaukee and Madison, 85% of the land mass of Wisconsin is rural. What will we do if we can't eat money? And our whole lives are based on the work of farmers. And here was the land ethic of family farms. Hand the land on to the next generation in better ways than what you found it. That's what a steward does. That's what's happened at People Power Electric. Built up a company now hanging on to the next generation. That's what Breakthrough Industries is doing under my leadership of my cousin. Take it and move it to the next generation. That's why institutions are so significant and important. And this is really important. Are we handing our democracy on to our children in better condition than we found it? Are we handing on the infrastructure of this country to the next generation in better condition than what was given to us? Are we handing on education? Are we handing on health care? Are we handing on the health and well-being in terms of clean water and clean air? Our justice system. And so all of us are stewards of a legacy not our own. And the way in which we do that work is by serving other people. By not being self-serving, but what is it that I might do each and every day? Committed to the growth and development of other people. This is what Dick Pieper has done for 88, going on 89 years. This is what all of you have committed your lives to, and why do we come together? To recommit ourselves. To leave here today re-energized and renewed and reminded that we have a responsibility to those who will follow us. Good work. Hard work, noble work, our work, and what a privilege it is to do it together. Our state conference on servant leadership, June 28th and June 29th, Jerry Janduza will be our keynote speaker. He begins off. He has his company here in Muskego, had MTech Industries, and now Breakthrough. Jerry is also on Project Pitch at the University of Wisconsin in Milwaukee. His son is now a student here at MSOE, and has also studied at Marquette as well. Isn't it amazing? All of us are not here for ourselves. We're here for the next generation. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being present. Thank you for your commitment. Those of us who are older have only one task, Jim Curlin, and that is to commit ourselves to the next generation and providing them the same opportunities that we were given by the elders in our lives. Thank you.